Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so new day, same question. Where the heck is Kamala Harris? Kamala, come out, wherever you are. That's what the people are saying. You're running for the damn presidency, don't you think you ought to address the nation? Answer some tough questions? Well, apparently not. And it's really no surprise why. The mainstream media is doing what the mainstream media does best, bringing on a bunch of Democrat clowns to defend Kamala Harris's position, or I guess her actions or lack thereof. But what they're saying obviously makes absolutely no sense. Let's have a conversation about it, and of course, highlight the actual truth why Kamala Harris is so frickin' scared and why she's trying to duck these debates. It's actually pretty simple and we have some video evidence to prove it. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so like I said, the media is doing what the media always does, gaslighting you into oblivion. I'd say it's a pretty standard, pretty straightforward request that somebody running for president ought to answer questions and do public interviews, but apparently it's only press and insiders that care about this issue.
Keisha, I mean, you know Kamala Harris well. I mean, she's done press conferences, she's done interviews. I mean, some of this I think is trying to stay on message, right? And something Trump has had some trouble with.
I believe this is only an insider conversation. Obviously, those in the media may want to see her do an interview, and insiders are talking about her sitting down to do an interview. But I can tell you, in the hundreds of people that I've talked to about this campaign, not one person has mentioned having a care about whether or not she sits down to do an interview. And I do believe that will happen in due time.
I mean, holy friggin' moly, how wrong can one human being be? Not exactly sure, but this person is certainly pushing the known thresholds of dishonesty. It's only the elite Republican press that care about Vice President Kamala Harris doing interviews. Give me a break, you mean the press that's 90+% Democrat shills? It's only them who care? No, most of those insiders and press people are the ones defending Kamala Harris. You know, once again, you got these Democrats treating the American people as if they're stupid. What an utter insult, as if we don't know the truth. I mean, for Pete's sakes, even some Democrat shills in Hollywood can admit the clear reality.
Sometimes it's just about winning, and it doesn't matter how we look at this moment. It's about winning.
Right.
This is about winning.
Yep. No, it is.
It's a mad dash, and she is running, and she's not stopping to stumble.
And you know what?
And there's nothing wrong with stopping this. I'm going to vote for her anyway, no matter what she says in a stupid interview.
Exactly.
So don't shit up.
You're right. I couldn't be more on that page.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty obvious, not only to Republicans, but even to lifelong Democrats, that the strategy here is to hide Kamala Harris because she's currently ahead of the polls and they're hoping to ride this momentum straight to the election. They don't want to jeopardize their momentum by having Kamala Harris speak. That's the obvious reality. And everybody knows it, but these shills continue. If it's not one DNC shill telling you that actually the people don't care about Kamala Harris doing public interviews, it's just the press, it's another Democrat shill telling you that you're actually crazy, that it's a made-up issue and Kamala Harris is doing all kinds of public events and speaking directly to the voters.
She had to build that capacity. She also just chose her vice president as a running mate.
Hang on.
The press was not her top priority.
We're talking about the vice president of the United States. She's been preparing to be president for allegedly for
She's
3.5 years.
also been doing a lot of interviews as vice president.
Therefore, she should have been able to do an interview on the first day. Why isn't she not?
It's not a question of ability. It is one of campaign measuring.
No, it's one.
The
She doesn't want to answer.
How much she needs to
she
be
doesn't
out
want to
and visiting
answer for the fact that she was against fracking. She was against
expanded
private
them now
insurance.
in ways
she was
that
against
Joe Biden
gasoline
could not.
cars.
And
She doesn't want to talk
where they
about
are
it.
and having those conversations every day. She's
doesn't-
talking about it to the
she
people who
doesn't
actually
want to
cast
talk about
votes in
what she-
November.
And she should do an interview. I'm just politically saying, Brad, and you have to acknowledge that it hasn't been that bad to this point.
She will do one. It is coming.
She'll show up at NPR or somewhere like that, but she's not going to take tough
She's going to show up on a network, and she's going to have a sit-down conversation. She has already said, her campaign has already said that that's going to happen. If you're waiting for the date, everybody else is waiting for the date.
It's a month.
She's actually on the ground. She's doing bus tours across the state of Georgia. She is talking to the
She's
voters.
the last one in the
voters are
room.
the people who are
Let's
going to
hear
make
it.
this decision.
What an absolute farce. These people always show exactly who they are. Dishonest propagandists. They're just straight up liars, and you know what? Okay, go for it. You know, I find it frustrating. Frankly, I find it disgusting that they're doing this, but at the same time, they're totally exposing themselves. The same people who talk about transparency and accountability, the same people who criticize Donald Trump for playing golf, are now here again again vehemently defending another basement candidate. Another Democrat too scared to face the heat, and more insultingly, too scared to face the American people, and they expect these BS justifications to pass. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that's gonna happen, because most people have an IQ above room temperature, and we can see what's really going on here. It's obvious why Kamala Harris doesn't want to do interviews, and more specifically, doesn't want to do interviews that aren't complete softball interviews. Mostly because, well, Kamala Harris tends to fall apart when put in a position of explaining very simple concepts.
On a different front, Axios this week reported that President Trump, if he gets a second term, will sort of dial back, for lack of a better term, DEI programs that the Biden administration has put in forth. Obviously, I know you disagree with that. I obviously believe that you don't want him to get a second term. That said, if that does happen, what do you think that would do to race relations in this country?
Well, let me say we're going to win, so it's not going to happen. But I think that, listen, today is actually, I believe, an anniversary in terms of Dr. King, right? And I was just in Selma, and we acknowledged the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. I think it's really important that we as Americans always embrace our history, the parts that we're proud of and the parts that we're not proud of, but that we can't forget. And we should all agree that we should teach history, we should learn history if we're to ever have an accurate idea of where we want to go and where we don't want to go in the future. And that means also acknowledging the importance of diversity. It means acknowledging the importance of the fact that everyone should have equal opportunity to compete and equity. And then, of course, inclusion, that, hey, let's look around the room and see who's not here, and did we leave the door open?
Yep. Complete word salad nonsense. Right there is the top of Kamala Harris's capabilities. That's arguably one of the most coherent answers or responses I've ever heard her give on a tough subject. She is a disaster. And she's also in a very tough position where she's essentially undergone a total political makeover or rebranding of sorts the moment she announced her candidacy, and she's got to justify it all. She's got to justify the fact that she once said that she wants to ban fracking, but now she doesn't agree with that stance. That she once said she wants to eliminate private healthcare, but now she no longer supports that position. She also claimed on multiple occasions that Trump's border wall was racist.
The President of the United States has a vanity project that he doesn't want to give up. It's the President's vanity project. This issue is about a vanity project for this President.
Right. The President's vanity project?
We are not facing a crisis. We have a President of the United States who has created a fiction about a crisis at the border, and he has held up the United States government and its workers around his vanity project called a wall.
The idea that he is trying to say that we have people that are trying to invade our country to commit mass crime is a crisis of his own making.
But now, in her desperate bid to get elected, she's running campaign ads highlighting Trump's border wall.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more border agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
And even going as far to promise that she's going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars continuing the project. How is P for Brains Kamala going to be able to explain all that? Going to be able to defend herself against an actual journalist? Of course, without looking like a complete incoherent fool who's totally detached from any semblance of common sense and reality. I don't know how she's going to do it, and obviously I'm not the only one thinking that. It seems her own campaign shares the exact same view. They don't want her out there because they know she's a disaster, and so they're hiding her and trying to convince you that it's perfectly normal and acceptable when it's clearly not. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.